Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Little, and I'm a software engineer here at Trilogy. And today I wanted to recover something that I presented in my last Client Manager webinar, and that is the use of saved searches and column layouts. There's some few extra pieces and some functionality here that I would like to show that I didn't quite get to show in the last webinar. So today I want to recap and show some of the more advanced features of saving a custom search. That is building a set of filters and saving them so you can quickly fire those filters off again to Client Manager and have your data reflect what you're looking for. Create a custom column layout. It's one thing saving the search what you want, but perhaps you want to present the search results in a certain way that helps you identify returns that you need to act on. Attaching a column layout to a saved search, so just building on that. Once you've defined a saved search, then associating another column layout with that saved search. So as you navigate through or select saved searches, the columns in Client Manager reflect the data that you're after. And lastly, I just want to quickly recap again, exporting to Excel. You can export your search results to Excel. It's very much what you see is what you get, plus some additional advanced features that we have there. So let's get started. I'm going to go to Client TaxCycle, and I have this running. At the top here, we have the search box for Client Manager, and here you can type anything you want, and Client Manager will match your returns based on your search criteria. And now over here on the right-hand side, it's where I have it configured. We have our Quick Searches tab. I've selected this already, and this will show us our existing list of quick searches. TaxCycle does include many standard quick searches out of the box for all the different return types from T1 through the NR4, etc. If I scroll down here a little bit more, we'll see a whole set of custom filter options. So these can be a checkbox or a combo box where you can query your returns for a particular state. And for example, I want to see my T1 returns that are unlocked and I need to e-file, for example. Just quickly though, I will call this out. It's quite useful. I have the quick searches sidebar open and pinned. This little pin icon here is pushed down. If I unclick that, it's unpinned, so the quick searches sidebar will move in and out depending on whether it has focus. And just below the pin icon, we have moved to the left edge of the window, so I can actually move my recent list and quick searches to the left-hand side of the window if that's what you prefer. I set it up on the right-hand side. That's what I'm used to, so I'm going to move it back there, and I'm going to pin the quick searches sidebar simply so it stays visible during this short webinar. So the first thing I wanted to cover was saved searches. So as we can see here, we've got a list of standard saved searches that ships with TaxCycle. This little combo box here at the top allows me to filter my saved searches based on a particular return type. So if I select T2, the list shortens, particularly if, like me, you use a wider screen rather than a taller screen. Now I'm only going to see my saved searches that are relevant to T2. TaxCycle figures that out by looking at the different criteria that make up the saved search, and if the T2 option is selected, then it's relevant and it will be filtered on the T2 module. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to select my T2 not filed filter. And as you can see, when I select that, there's a green check mark that gets placed next to it. This indicates that this is the active saved search. And as you can see here, across my crumb bar just below my search box, I have the different components that make up my saved search. So we call this the crumb bar, if you pardon that expression, and each one of these criteria is a crumb that makes up the saved search. Now if I scroll back to my quick searches sidebar and then scroll down a little bit, we'll see that the saved search T2 not filed has pre-selected for me my T2 return type, TaxCycle files only, and in the workflow section, it hasn't been corporate internet filed yet. The return has not been printed yet, and the will not filed workflow task has not been selected. By default, most of our filters operate like this. You can have returns that perhaps you don't want to file. You're just using them to play with different tax scenarios. So by default, you can opt to select, I don't want to file this return, and all of our stock filters will look at this particular workflow task and factor that in to the saved search. The other thing I'd like to call out here, if you can see it, if I just collapse the year, any section here in the custom filter section that contains an item that has been selected, T2, TaxCycle files only in this case, will also have a green check mark next to it. So if your custom filters are all collapsed, you can quickly see which sections have items that have been applied to this saved search. Now, if I don't want to see that saved search anymore, I can simply click on it again, and now my green check mark goes away, and I go back to my full list without any particular saved search or filter combination being applied. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select T2 filed, not filed again, I should say, sorry. And I'm going to go down to my return type, and you know what, I'm only interested in filing returns that I've locked. So at some point during the preparation of these T2 returns, I only want the files that I really want to file, I have locked. I've put them in a state where they can't change. So then when I do come to transmit them, they haven't changed from the last time that I prepared them. So I'm going to include locked files in my filter. Oh, I don't have any locks. Or my unlocked files, for example. And what you can see here is my save search now has a small disk icon and a cross icon next to it. So what this is saying is we've detected that this default save search has changed. We've modified the criteria, we've modified the custom filters that make up the save search. So would you like to make those permanent? Would I like to save them? In this case, I will. Click save. So I select away to a different filter, and when I come back, as you can see, the unlocked files filter is also included with all the standard ones that TaxCycle selected by default. Now that behavior is true to every single filter, so you can modify existing ones to do what you like. But what happens if I want to create a new save search, and I don't want to use an existing one as a starting point? That's okay. So cancel that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to clear all my filters. Cancel that change, cancel that. Clear all, please. There we go. So now I want to find all of my T2 returns that have a year in the last 3 months that perhaps I need to address. So I'm going to go through my custom filters. I'm interested in T2 returns that are my TaxCycle files only. I'm not interested in planning or training returns. I'll collapse the return type group. I'm going to go down here to dates, and I'm going to go year end. Okay, yep. Now for year end and all the dates, we do have some stock standard pre-selections for you. Is the year end on a particular date? Is it before or after a particular date? Or in this case here, I'm going to go is between. So I want to find the last, oops. Let me go back a bit further there. I'm sorry about this. There we go. So I've had to go back a bit further than I originally intended, but what I can see here is all the year ends that fall between a particular date. I can type in there as well if I wish, rather than using the combo box. So as I can see, I've now created a filter that consists of T2 files, TaxCycle files only, and where the year end of the T2 return is between the 1st of June and the 31st of December. Now I've created that. Now I want to save it. I've got my selections here I like. So at the bottom here of the quick searches, we can click Save as New Search. So I'm going to call this my T2 year ends June through December. Now I can click the Save button here, or I can simply click Enter. And now I have now saved my custom filter selections as a saved search. Now that's very good. Perhaps now I want to associate a particular column with this. So what I can do here is if you right click on the search, we have a set of various options here. I'm going to change the column layout and I'm going to go to options. So where I am now within the TaxCycle options is under the client manager item here, I'm at column layouts. Column layouts are what defines the columns that you see in your search results. As I use an options profile, I'm just going to make changes. The first thing we can do here is we can allow reordering of columns directly from in the search results. That option is checked by default. So if I was to drag these columns around, they would reorder them and TaxCycle would remember the new order of your columns. The second option here is to allow the removal of columns. So if you see a column in your search result and you don't like it, you can simply right click on it and go remove and it won't show anymore. By default, that option is off. So here I have a column, my standard T2 column layout, and I have a set of predefined columns. Now in this particular case, I don't actually use the web access code request, so I'm going to drag that back over here and it will disappear. I don't do 81 or the CO17 filing in this particular case. I'm not really interested to see if I've received information. And then I can click apply. So now if I go back, okay. So now my save search, which is associated with the T2 CO17 layout, will now only present the columns that I'm interested in. And as I mentioned earlier, because I have reordering enabled, I can simply drag that column somewhere else. And now the file name column will appear at the end. Now that's all very good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another save search, and rather than modify an existing column layout, I'm going to create a brand new one. So clear all. Let me go, so no filters here. I'm going to go 2017. My return type is going to be TaxCycle files only, and I'm only interested in return status where I'm waiting for a client. So what I've done here is I've selected some columns. I'm interested in my 2017 returns that are TaxCycle files. I'm not interested in planning or training returns, where I'm waiting for a client. So at some point during the preparation of these returns, I selected the waiting for client checkbox at the top of the client's workflow to indicate that I cannot continue to prepare this return because I need something from my client. So I'm going to go ahead and save as a new search. Waiting for clients 2017. Now that's not particularly the column layout that I want to see. I actually want to see how long I've been waiting for my clients and any other comments that I have added. So I'm going to go change my column layout, go into my options. Again, I use an options profile, so I need to select to make changes first. I'm now going to make a new column layout. So I can simply double click on new column layout, waiting, and start typing my name, waiting for clients. Enter. So these are my standard columns. Now I'm not really interested in some of these columns. I don't AFR, express notice, received information, approver. I can use the control button to select two, move them at the same time. Now what I am interested in is how long I have been waiting. So if I scroll down the list of available columns, there are many. If you do hold the cursor over an available column, we'll give a little tooltip as to what the column is for. So in this case here, I am waiting for my client. I've been waiting for. So the waiting is a checkbox that will say yes, I am waiting, or no, that I am not. Waiting for is the number of days you've been waiting. And lastly, I would like their mobile number, phone number, so we can give them a call. I might also take their email address. Perhaps I prefer to email them just to remind them that, hey, I asked you for some information. It's just holding up the preparation of your return. And lastly, where's it gone? Some return comments. So return workflow comments is the checkbox, is the box that goes at the top of the workflow, and that's a comment box where you can add anything you want. So if you're waiting for the client, you can then add a note as to why you're waiting. So I'm also going to put that in there. I can simply drag that across as well to wherever I want it to appear. I'll put that at the end. That is everything that I need. Going to go apply. Okay. So now I've done that, I'm going to go to my change column layout for my waiting for clients 2017 saved search, and now I'm going to select waiting for clients. I'm going to save that change. I'm just going to go ahead and collapse my quick searches sidebar so we can see everything. So as we can see now, for my saved search, I've now associated a particular column layout. The columns, as you can see here, indicate all the fields that the columns that I selected, including the email address, if I had entered a mobile phone number in this particular return, the checkbox to indicate that you've been waiting, and how many days you've been waiting. If the number of days you've been waiting column is blank, it just means that you started waiting today. We only start showing the number when there's been more than a day. Now, if I go back into my options, and I'm going to make changes again, I use an options profile. Because I do use an options profile, all the custom columns and saved searches I'm creating will also be available to the other preparers in my office who also share my options profile. I would just like to call out some other options here before I export that to Excel. You can always restore your default column layouts at any point. This will simply remove all the custom ones you've made and take all the stock TaxCycle ones and return them to the default columns. So you can play around with this and get what you want. And if you feel that, oh, it's not quite how I want it, you can always come back in and restore the default layouts and go back to the default. Now over here on the left-hand side, the other option we see here below Client Manager is our quick searches. These are all the quick searches that we've seen on our quick searches sidebar. And this is just a convenient way to see them all lined up here together. So as we can see, if I was to select my carry forward save search with using the standard column layout, if I look for my waiting for clients 2017, as you can see in the combo box here, it's got my default column layout that I've just created. Now if I scroll through this list, we'll notice we've seen one here that has a blue asterisk next to it. So if I was to select the outstanding invoices saved search, the column layout that was associated with that is no longer available. So it's just called this out to me. So from the combo box, I can select any of the existing column layouts, including the custom ones that I've created. So I'm just going to reapply the standard layout there. Again, if you go through and you modify some of your saved searches to use different column layouts, you can always assign the default column layouts back at a later point. You can always get back to the starting default state. Okay, so now under my quick searches, I've created my waiting for clients 2017. Perhaps now that I've got this saved, I've associated a column layout. I just want to tweak it a little bit. That's fine. You can simply come and select, say T1 in this case. I can make the save to my save search. Now when I click waiting for clients, the additional T1 return type filter option is also applied. If I scroll back up to the top here, I'll pick TP1. Just to highlight that column layout, if I go to T1 not filed, as you can see, my column layout changes. But when I come back to my waiting for clients 2017, my column layout should have been reassigned. It's waiting for clients. And there it has been assigned. It was just a bit smaller and I couldn't quite see it. So if I just collapse my quick searches, and here we go. So what's happened here is by default, because I've included the T1, the return status aggregated column has been split down into the different return types. And there we go. So now that I've got saved my search for the clients I'm waiting for, and I can see them in my search results, we can always export this to Excel. Using the Excel drop-down button here on the top right-hand corner of my search results, I can say export to Excel. I'm going to do that. I'm going to save it. And there we go. So here is, if I just do that, here is my particular column layout that I've saved, exported to Excel, including all of my additional columns that I've added. Now if I don't save that, the difference here between export to an Excel workbook and export to a detailed Excel workbook is the detailed export will include everything that you see on screen, just like you've seen, plus TaxCycle automatically rolls in a few key columns, such as transmission status and confirmation numbers and so forth. So that means you don't have to add those to your custom layout. You can just have the columns you want to see. You can export a slightly detailed or more detailed Excel workbook to get those additional columns as you wish. The export contact information will take the search results you see on screen, and if I run that, but rather than including the columns as you've laid out, it will simply create an export that is built around the various ways you can greet or reach out to some of your clients, including the telephone numbers, the household name, principal taxpayer, and so forth. Again, this report here will only produce rows for the clients that you see on screen. Now, the last export we have that I'd like to call out is the full data export. This is different from the first three. This will go to Client Manager and pull all your clients with all of your data. It can take a while depending on the number of your clients. So that's the distinction here between a full data export and using one of the other three exports that you have available to you. So that is all I wanted to cover today. Hopefully you've learned something there, or you've seen the possibility, hey, I can create some custom searches and then I can associate layouts and I can export those layouts to Excel exactly how I want to see. In this particular example, I created a custom search and a layout for clients that I'm waiting for. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear what you have to say. You can always email info@taxcycle.com or give us a call. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you at the next webinar that we host. Okay, bye now.